I want you to just close your eyes for a second.
Always a good way to start.
Right. Just humor me here. So imagine you're standing on this wide, incredibly picturesque street.
Yeah, okay. I'm picturing it.
And it's completely lined with these massive, ancient oak trees, like a full canopy over the road.
Sounds nice.
It is. And you're walking past these low, whitewashed houses. You know, they've got these thatched gables and dark green shutters.
Very quaint. Very European.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You hear the rustle of the oaks, maybe the murmur of people sitting at a sidewalk cafe nearby.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the tick-tick-tick of a vineyard sprinkler somewhere in the distance.
Oh, vineyards.
Yeah, and the smells are super specific. You smell crushed grapes, fresh bread, and this like warm dust of a really sun-baked afternoon. Plus this wild herbal smell.
Like a Mediterranean herb?
Kind of. It's called fynbos.
Mm.
And here's the kicker. When you look past those whitewashed houses, the backdrop is just these jagged, dramatic, completely wild blue mountains.
Right, so we are definitely not in France.
No, we are not. And we're not in a safari documentary either. You are in Stellenbosch, South Africa.
Which is such a brilliant reveal because it completely shatters what most people picture when they think of moving to that part of the world.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're looking at today. Okay, let's unpack this. The mission of this deep dive is to look at a source essay from the Where Americans Go series.
Right, and it's a fascinating piece.
It really is, because it doesn't just pitch this town as like a cute spot for a 2-week vacation.
No, it's pitching a total life overhaul.
Yeah, it's arguing that this is a highly viable, dazzlingly beautiful place to actually move to. Like to build a life and escape the crazy information overload we all deal with.
And secure an incredibly high standard of living while doing it.
Right. So if you are listening to this and you've ever, fantasized about a radical lifestyle shift, we're going to break down the exact logistics today.
The real on-the-ground economics.
Exactly. The money, the realities, all of it. Because the Southern Hemisphere sanctuary sounds great, but how does it actually work?
Well, to really understand how this lifestyle functions, we have to start with the actual physical geography.
Because it's not just pretty to look at, right?
No, not at all. The text spends a lot of time on the aesthetic and the geography because they are the engine of the entire town.
So paint the picture for us. Where exactly is this?
So Stellenbosch sits in this very deeply fertile valley, roughly 30 miles east of Cape Town.
Okay, so fairly short drive from a major global city.
Exactly. But it feels completely isolated because it's boxed in by these 3 really dramatic rocky mountain ranges.
Right. The Hottentots Holland, right?
Yep, the Hottentots Holland, the Helderberg, and the Stellenbosch Range. They create this natural fortress.
Which explains those jagged blue mountains I was talking about earlier.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here is how that specific environment dictated the town's whole future.
You mean like the economy and stuff?
Yeah, the fertile soil and the protective mountains basically guaranteed it would become an agricultural powerhouse, specifically for wine. Right,
which we'll definitely get into. But I want to talk about the buildings for a second, because the author keeps bringing up this Cape Dutch architecture.
It's very distinct.
Yeah, and honestly, when I hear Dutch architecture, I'm picturing like windmills in Amsterdam, which feels insane in an African valley.
Yeah, it sounds totally out of place, but it's actually this brilliant adaptation to the local climate.
Okay, how so?
Well, the town is old. It's the second oldest European settlement in South Africa, founded way back in 1679.
Wow. By a guy named Simon van der Stel, right?
Yeah.
Hence the name Stellenbosch.
You got it. And when they started building, they were dealing with a Mediterranean climate. Brutal summer sun.
So they needed buildings that wouldn't turn into ovens.
Exactly. So those bright whitewashed walls you mentioned, they're made of lime and they reflect the sun.
Oh, that makes sense, like you see in Greece or Spain.
Right. And then they used thick thatch for the roofs to insulate against the heat.
But wait, isn't thatch basically just dry grass? That sounds like a massive fire hazard.
It is a massive fire hazard, especially because the Cape is notorious for these gale force winds.
Oh man, so one spark and the whole house is gone.
Precisely. And that is why they built those elaborate curved gables you were describing, the ones over the front doors.
Wait, really? I thought this was just for decoration, to look fancy.
Nope, purely functional. If the thatch caught fire, the burning roof would slide down the sides of the house. The gable acted like a shield so the residents could safely run out the front door without burning thatch falling on their heads.
That is wild. That completely changes how you look at the whole town.
It does. It's an aesthetic born out of pure survival.
And it's all so old. The text talks about streets, Dorp Street and Drosti Street, where the oak trees were planted over 3 centuries ago.
They don't call it the town of oaks for nothing.
Yeah, it really feels like this perfectly preserved European historical village was just magically dropped into this rugged African valley.
It's a very striking contrast.
It makes me think about, how geography and architecture actually affect your brain on a daily basis.
The psychological impact, yeah.
Because in the US, I feel like our environment is built for planned obsolescence. You drive past a strip mall, and you just know it'll probably be torn down and turned into an Amazon warehouse in 20 years.
Right, nothing feels permanent. It's very transient.
Exactly. But if you're walking under a 300-year-old oak tree, surrounded by houses built in the 1700s, with these mountains that have just always been there.
It grounds you.
Yeah, it forces you to slow down.
The author actually points out the light there, too, this very specific golden, clear, late afternoon light.
Oh, right, the light that's been drawing landscape painters for 200 years.
Exactly. When you live inside that kind of enduring, static beauty, it naturally pushes back against that frantic, disposable feeling of modern life.
Okay, but let's hit pause for a second, because we need to address the elephant in the room here.
I was wondering when we'd get to this.
Yeah, I'm reading all these descriptions of ancient oaks and painters and golden light, and I'm getting a little skeptical.
It sounds a bit too perfect.
Right. You can't talk about a picturesque bubble without looking at the broader national context.
No, you really can't.
In South Africa, it has some very well-documented, very serious challenges.
Yes, the source material is actually quite pragmatic about that.
Yeah, I noticed that. It neutrally points out the higher crime rates in major cities, which are higher than most U.S. cities. It mentions the severe inequality and obviously the long, incredibly painful legacy of apartheid. So, why is this specific town so different from the headlines?
Well, the text positions Stellenbosch as a statistical exception. It is consistently one of the safest, calmest, and most prosperous towns in the entire country.
But see, that makes me want to push back a bit.
Go for it.
If the country as a whole is navigating this massive complexity and high crime, is an American expat moving there, essentially just buying their way into a walled garden?
Like a gated resort kind of vibe.
Yeah. Is it a genuinely integrated town or just a synthetic bubble for rich people?
That's a very fair question. But if we connect this to the bigger picture of how cities actually function, we see that the safety here isn't artificial.
What do you mean by artificial?
Well, a gated resort requires constant artificial input, right? You need to build literal walls and hire private security to keep the outside world out.
Right, it's defensive.
Exactly. But Stellenbosch relies on 2 major organic economic pillars that generate stability from the inside out.
Okay, the first pillar being the university, right?
Yes, the University of Stellenbosch. Having a major academic institution completely changes the DNA of a town.
Because it brings in money.
Money, yes, but also youth. It provides a young, vibrant, pedestrian-heavy culture. You have international academics, constant government funding, and it demands reliable infrastructure.
So there are always people walking around, going to cafes, sitting in parks.
Right. It deters the kind of opportunistic crime that thrives in empty, isolated spaces.
Makes sense. And the second economic pillar is the wine industry.
Exactly. And the wine industry is incredibly labor-intensive. This isn't a tech hub where the wealth is just hoarded by 50 software developers working in a high-rise.
Yeah, cultivating a vineyard takes a village. Literally.
It takes a massive local supply chain. You need people to harvest, produce, bottle, and export. It provides massive, stable employment for the broader region.
So the prosperity is actually woven into the physical land.
Precisely. The safety is a byproduct of high employment and economic momentum, not just high fences.
Though, to be fair, the source does offer a caveat.
It does. It's not Vermont.
Right. It advises people to learn the basics of situational awareness, like, using standard home security systems and actually listening to local advice.
Which is just common sense when you move to a new country.
Yeah, you don't just leave your front door wide open and your keys in the car.
Right. But the takeaway is that once you adapt to that baseline of awareness, daily life there is overwhelmingly peaceful.
Okay, so if the town is organically stable because of the students and the wine, here's where it gets really interesting to me. The economics of paradise.
Oh, the geographic arbitrage. It's fascinating.
It really is. It feels like a glitch in the matrix. earning US dollars while living in this specific environment.
Because the global currency market creates a very unique scenario for expats.
Yeah, the daily routine the author describes just sounds absurdly affordable. Let's walk through it.
Let's just do it.
So you wake up, you've got these stunning mountain views, you walk past the joggers and the students, and you get a flat white coffee at a cafe on Church Street.
A very good flat white, by the way. Specialty roasters.
Right, not gas station coffee. And it costs like $3.
Which is almost nothing for an American earning dollars.
Exactly. And the culture there is so unhurried. People actually greet strangers on the street.
It's brisk, but it's not frantic.
Yeah. But the wine culture is where the numbers just broke my brain.
The $10 tastings.
Yes. The text says you drive 10 minutes out of town, and there are literally hundreds of wine estates. Everything from like 300-year-old historic manors to hyper-modern natural wine boutiques.
The variety is incredible.
And you sit down, you get a tasting of 6 excellent world-class wines, plus some cheese or charcuterie, and the bill is $10. How is that a real thing?
Well, it goes back to the export economy we were just talking about. These wine estates make their real money selling bottles for 40 or 50 bucks a pop in London or New York.
All right, they're pulling in foreign currency.
Exactly, so they can afford to keep their local tasting room prices aligned with the local South African economy. As an American expat, you're essentially getting a subsidized luxury experience.
That makes total sense. And that same arbitrage applies to housing, which is the biggest expense for anyone.
The real estate numbers are staggering.
The source says a 3-bedroom modern home with a pool and a garden rents for between $700 and $1,500 a month.
Good luck finding a 1-bedroom apartment in a U.S. city for that price.
Honestly, you couldn't find a decent parking spot in New York for $700 a month.
Right. And if you want to buy a home outright, even one with vineyard views, they start under $300,000.
Which is just, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around. And the dining scene is the same story. Top-tier farm-to-table dinners, the kind of place that would have a 6-month wait list in Brooklyn or LA. You're paying $50 to $70 per person. And that includes the medal-winning local wine.
Which, again, is $10 to $15 in a shop or $20 to $30 in a restaurant.
So to your point, this isn't just about finding a cheap place to live. It's about the psychological relief.
The disappearance of background stress.
Yes. When affordability is that extreme, luxury isn't this rare vacation thing you save up for all year. It just becomes your daily life.
Right. You aren't constantly calculating if you can afford to live well. You just live well.
But affordability is only great if you actually like your life, right? Like, a cheap life is miserable if you're totally isolated.
That's the danger of a lot of these expat havens. You move for the cheap rent, and you realize you have no friends.
Exactly. So, who is actually moving to the bottom of the world? And do they fit in? Because if you are an American moving to a tight-knit town founded in 1679...
This raises an important question about integration. How do you bridge that gap without feeling like a perpetual tourist?
Yeah, how do you actually belong?
Well, the text highlights that the town is already highly international.
Oh, because of the university again.
Right. You have students and faculty from dozens of countries constantly cycling through, plus the global winemakers and importers.
So the locals are totally used to foreigners.
Exactly. They have a very long tradition of welcoming visitors who actually take the time to engage with the place.
And I'm assuming the language barrier isn't too crazy.
That's the key. The community is largely English-speaking. That shared language acts as a natural bridge. You aren't struggling to order a coffee or talk to your neighbor.
That makes a huge difference. So who are the Americans actually making this move? The source breaks them down into 3 main profiles.
Yes. First, you have the early retirees.
Right. People who are looking at their retirement accounts in places like the Bay Area or the Northeast and realizing they're going to have to seriously downgrade their lifestyle.
Exactly. They don't want to sacrifice their standard of living just to cover basic property taxes and groceries in California.
So they take that same nest egg, move to Stellenbosch, and suddenly they're living like royalty.
It's pure financial leverage.
And the second group is the remote workers, the tech and finance folks.
And this is where the geography becomes a massive advantage.
Because of the time zones, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
South Africa shares a time zone with Europe. So if you work with European clients, you have normal business hours.
But if you work with the U.S.?
If you work with the U.S., say on East Coast time, your work day doesn't really start until the afternoon in South Africa.
Oh, wow. So you have your entire morning and early afternoon completely free.
You can hike the mountains, go to the vineyards, hit the cafes, and then you log on for work when the US wakes up.
That is an incredible life hack. You're working full-time, but it feels like you're half retired.
It completely flips the traditional work-life balance.
And the third profile the text mentions is families, which surprised me a little bit.
Seeking out a slower childhood.
Yeah, parents who are just exhausted by the American suburb rat race, the screen time, the hyper-competitive schools.
They want an outdoor-focused life for their kids.
Right. The source mentions excellent private schools there, and obviously unparalleled proximity to nature. The very deliberate shift.
But once the dream is sold, the reality of execution sets in.
Right. The logistics of the hemispheric move. Because it's not like packing a U-Haul and driving to Texas.
Not at all. How do you manage travel, health, and just staying connected from the southern tip of Africa?
Well, travel-wise, the text is pretty straightforward. Cape Town International Airport is only 45 minutes away.
Very convenient.
Yeah, and you've got direct flights to Europe and usually one-stop flights to the U.S. But, it is a long trip.
It's easily a 20-plus hour journey to the States.
Right. So residents tend to just do it once or twice a year. It's not a place where you fly back to New York for a long weekend.
But the exploration you can do locally on the weekends is incredible.
Oh my gosh, the weekend itineraries they listed.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so within 45 minutes, you're at the V&A waterfront in Cape Town, or hanging out on the beaches in Camps Bay.
Or taking the cable car up Table Mountain.
Yeah. And then you have the other winelands like Franschhoek and Parle right next door.
Mm-hmm.
You can take these unbelievable coastal drives on Chapman's Peak, and 90 minutes east, you're in Hermanus doing world-class whale watching.
And if you want to go a bit further afield, you've got safaris in the Eastern Cape, or short flights to Namibia, Victoria Falls, Mozambique.
It's literally a launch pad for the entire continent. But, okay, let's talk about the real deal breaker for most Americans looking to move abroad. Healthcare. It's the big surprise in this whole source document.
It is the single factor that completely de-risks the move.
Yeah, because usually you assume moving to a developing nation means rolling the dice on your health.
But South Africa has a very unique two-tiered system.
Right. So there's the public system, which has its challenges, but then there's this private healthcare tier.
And the private tier is world-class. We're talking equivalent to the top hospitals in the U.S.
The text specifically mentions networks like MediClinic and Netcare.
Yes.
It's like finding this secret VIP lounge, The facilities are gorgeous. The doctors are often trained in the UK or Europe.
The service is impeccable.
But the entry fee is just miraculously cheaper.
Because the local economy can't sustain U.S. medical inflation.
Right. So a consult with a top specialist is what, $60 to $100?
Out of pocket, yes.
That's less than my copay in the States. And comprehensive private health insurance, the kind that gets you into these top hospitals with no wait times, is only $100 to $300 a month.
It's why South Africa is a massive hub for medical tourism. People fly in just for complex surgeries because it's cheaper to pay for the flight, a luxury hotel, and the surgery out of pocket than to deal with the U.S. system.
That is just insane, but it totally solves the biggest hurdle of expat life for American retirees and families. You aren't terrified that a broken leg is going to bankrupt you.
It removes the fear factor entirely.
So what does this all mean? We've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We started with a town of ancient oak trees and functional Dutch architecture. We looked at the $3 artisan coffees and the $300,000 vineyard homes.
The mechanics of geographic arbitrage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The world-class private healthcare, the vibrant university town feel, and this welcoming community that offers what the author calls the grown-up good life.
A life a lot of Americans thought was basically extinct.
Right. So I want you to go back to that image from the beginning. Just picture yourself sitting on a porch. The sun is setting over the mountains, turning the sky this incredible dusky pink and lavender. You hear someone playing acoustic guitar down the street, and you suddenly realize you haven't looked at your phone or thought about traffic or stressed about your grocery bill in months.
It's a profound shift in how you experience daily existence, and it leaves us with a final thought to ponder, really building on what the text suggests.
Lay it on us.
If the rise of remote work and geographic arbitrage allows us to just, seek out these historic, deeply rooted towns anywhere across the globe, how might this massive reshuffling change our fundamental definition of what it means to truly belong to a community in the 21st century?
Wow. That is definitely something that you want. Are we tied to where we were born or where we find our peace?
Exactly.
Well, that wraps up our deep dives into Stellenbosch. Thank you so much for exploring this with us. And next time, we are pivoting hard. We're looking at source material focused on a small island capital in Tasmania.
Completely different climate, completely different vibe.
Oh yeah, we're talking the cleanest air on Earth at the literal end of the world. You won't want to miss it. Until then, stay curious.